Get that shit out of here. That's more like it. Wave Race 64 is, to this day, a fondly remembered title. Considered technically impressive for the time due to its complex water physics, the game has aged incredibly well in no small part due to the fluid, buttery gameplay. But the other two titles in the Wave Race franchise seem to go largely ignored nowadays, and that always had me curious. Doubly so because Wave Race 64 is, in fact, not the first title in the franchise. That first title would be 1992's Wave Race for the Game Boy. The original Game Boy. I'm Jonii, and I'm here to ask you, how in God's name does this game work? Today we're going to see where this one-hit wonder of a franchise got its start and talk about Wave Race for the Game Boy, both judging it as a game on its own merits and comparing it to the better remembered future of the franchise. Let's get into it. Wave Race was developed by the beloved Dream Team at Nintendo EAD, who are known for being behind a variety of acclaimed Nintendo titles like the original Super Mario Bros. And Zelda trilogies, as well as eventually going on to develop this game's successor on the Nintendo 64. The Game Boy iteration was produced by Shigeru Miyamoto, famed man who make plumber go jump, and directed by Masayuki Kamiyama, who has fewer credits to his name, but a respectable resume nonetheless, having directed that dope-ass Donkey Kong remake/sequel for the Game Boy, as well as Mole Mania, a comparatively obscure but still well-liked title. He's also credited as scenario assistant on Earthbound, which is cool and epic. The development process was also aided by the company Pax Softnica. I don't even know how to say that. Pax Softnica. That's really difficult. A Japanese studio that assisted Nintendo with the development of numerous other games, notably the Mother series, Earthbound, you know. Those two aforementioned Game Boy titles, and Pokemon Snap. Love me some Pokemon Snap. Interestingly though, despite being developed by two Japanese companies, the game only ever saw release in North America and Europe. Given how sparse information on this particular game is, I have no idea why that's the case. The game released to absolutely zero fanfare in North America on July 1st, 1992. Hilariously, the game didn't see a release in Europe until June 24th, 1997, 5 years later and a mere 2 months after its infinitely more popular follow-up, Wave Race 64, hit European store shelves. Anyways, when I say no fanfare, I mean literally, like, nothing. I've found exactly one commercial on YouTube. The video's Spanish description says that it came from a Super Mario Bros. VHS, probably for one of the Deke Mario cartoons. The commercial's in English though, so I don't know what happened there. I also found only one magazine review from 1997 in the official UK Nintendo magazine, graced with artwork from Wave Race 64, probably because of how exceptionally sparse the amount of official artwork created for this particular game seems to be. It seems like Nintendo didn't have a ton of faith in Wave Race. Maybe it existed to fill out the Game Boy's lineup of sports games with a jetski title? That's pretty much all I can think of as to why it exists at all, especially given how little the company seemed to care about it. The game's story consists of a single paragraph in the manual. Someone named Slick Wilson informs you that you're entering the personal watercraft national series in the Bahamas, along with the best riders from all over the US. Shit, I didn't know Wave Race had lore. How I, no jet ski experience to speak of, John, was invited to this event is a mystery, but I'll be damned if I'm not gonna make the most of it. How do I start? Well, Wave Race contains two different game modes, those being the race mode and the slalom mode, meaning only half of this game is racing, meaning the title is a misnomer, meaning I want my money back. Wave Race is played from a top-down perspective. The controls are essentially B to accelerate, the D-pad to steer, and A to boost. You only have a certain amount of boost though, displayed by this bar on the right side of the screen. It builds steadily as time passes, but you use it up quickly if you decide to take the plunge, so you need to be careful and save it for when you really need it. With the basics out of the way, let's talk about the two game modes. We'll start with Race, the thing on the label. There are 3 cups for this that effectively act as difficulty levels: 550cc, 650cc, and 800cc. The amount of races per cup varies depending upon which one you choose. 4 for 550, 6 for 650, and 8 for 800. Each race also actually represents a different location. The Bahamas, Hawaii, Miami, places like that. Not sure how this works in the context of the manual story, considering the game is supposed to canonically take place just in the Bahamas. Does everyone hop a plane between races? I don't trust you, Slick Wilson. Something tells me that the story was an American creation and the actual developers didn't exactly have Slick and his personal original Watercraft National Series in mind when making the game. Regardless, in each race you compete against 3 other racers for 3 laps. To keep you on the beaten path, represented here by the darker water, there are not only arrows on the track, but also buoys that you'll need to pass in order to actually progress. You gotta be careful to stay on the right side of the buoys. If you do this correctly, you'll be rewarded with a really goofy looking smiley face. I love it. But if you fail to achieve that smiley face, you can't properly complete the lap, and it won't give you more time like it usually does when you finish a lap. Oh yeah, by the way, by the way, you've got a time limit. Have fun with it. Like I said, when you manage to complete a lap, it gives you some more to work with, which I think does a fairly good job of keeping things tense. To combat this time limit and those other racers, you'll need to make optimal use of your boost. Of course, as your boost is pretty limited, this requires a good bit of strategy and creates for a pretty unique and fun type of gameplay. The biggest complaint I have is that the controls can feel a little slippery a lot of the time. It's nothing crazy, perfectly playable, but it screwed me up more than a couple times. Oh, and there's also 2 items, an octopus and a dolphin. The octopus will allow you to steal boost power from nearby racers, and the dolphin will give you better control to avoid some of the slippy slides. I do appreciate the variation they provide, although they both show up pretty sparsely, so they don't change the course of the races that much. The other game mode is Slalom, which is similarly divided into 3 cups. There are a bunch of buoys with flags between them, which are marked on the minimap, and your goal is to pass through more of them than the other racers do. This does require a little more strategy though, especially on the later courses, because everyone is also going to go for these posts, meaning that time is of the essence, and you're likely not going to be able to lock down everyone. In this mode, the slippery controls tend to screw with me even more, because there doesn't seem to be a way to determine whether the post is laid out vertically or horizontally, which means that sometimes I'll steer my way into entirely the wrong side, and by the time I correct myself, someone else has taken my prize away from me. This mode is also really fun, and I think it gives the game a nice variety of stuff. But hey, if you get sick of playing Wave Race by yourself, the game also supports multiplayer with up to 4 people through the Game Boy's link cable accessories. All you need is a link cable, a Game Boy for everyone who's playing, and a copy of Wave Race for everyone who's playing. Aren't you glad it's not 1992 anymore? Anyways, I do not have a link cable, a second copy of Wave Race, or a person to play with, but I do have YouTube, and I came across a video by one Watch Me Play Nintendo, which confirms that all the race and slalom cups are available as multiplayer outings. The game seems to run pretty well too, so I could see this being a fun time and perhaps a good selling point back in the day, although there are other newer games with maybe more efficient ways of playing baked-in multiplayer now. Did Nintendo make this game to show for the link cable? You be the judge. On the whole, the game is pretty well designed and fun, but it can feel pretty punishingly difficult at times, with the strict requirements for moving on to the next cup, and especially the later slalom maps. Mastering the unique slidey controls is going to be vital to your success, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows. But I think, on the whole, the game usually feels fair while still making you work for your own success. Except for the 4th race on 550cc, which pops up on 650 and 800 as well. Those curvy curve turns are a bunch of dumb bullshit. The graphics are pretty basic, but they get the job done. It looks pretty solid when you give it a more watery palette. The Super Game Boy has this nice one that I've been showing over the course of the video, but the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Player can also give you a nice bright blue with red racers that looks real good. Your racer stands out pretty nicely from the water. The names of the areas are purely for flavor, which is kind of funny. I like the idea that Hawaii is visually indistinguishable from Florida or the Bahamas. Now normally, this is the part of the video where I talk about the music in the game, but for 90% of Wave Race, you get the privilege of listening to your engine hum. Just listen to that baby purr. For those of you who are wondering, yes, that's an exact mathematically determined percentage. I put in the work. No, I didn't. The sound effects are at least varied enough to keep things from getting too annoying, but don't expect to hear any like baller-ass beats while you race. No fat bass, no funky rhythms, bopping tunes. Oh, except for when you get an item. Now that's a goddamn tune right there. Best song I've ever heard in a Game Boy game. Certainly beats the hell out of Pokemon and Zelda. Unironically though, the result screen music does kind of slap. Title screen music too. Not a lot of music in this game, but what's there is pretty nice, pretty good stuff. Unless you happen to score real low on the results screen. The game's music will basically mock you. I don't know what gives it the right. You better watch it, Wave Race. I bought you for $6. I don't care about your well-being. On the whole, despite my previous ambivalence towards my cartridge's safety, I do think think the original Wave Race is a woefully underappreciated little game. It works very efficiently as a simple and challenging little handheld title with enough content to keep you occupied for a good while. While a part of me wishes that Slick Wilson had a chance to host his personal Watercraft National Series on a platform like SNES or Game Boy Advance, so as to truly refine this title's gameplay moving forward, I am happy to say that the following title in the franchise is more than worthy of bearing the name, and it deserves its reputation as a classic. Next time Wave Race comes up in conversation though, probably at one of your nerdy nerd parties with your nerd Nintendo fan friend nerds, remember where it all started. Well, it's time for me to get going. Gotta test my skills against the best PWC racers in the world and all that. Peace.